So we're going to be talking about function rules here, and function rules are just kind of like equations. Well, they are equations. It's something where you're coming up with an algebraic expression on one side, and then you're solving for a value on the other side. And an example here, just to see what a function is just right here. How many $2 candy bars can you buy if you know how much money you have? So basically, you plug in the value for C, you get a value here. And a function is something where we don't know either of the two values, but we can plug in a variety of values and solve for the other side. So I can plug in for 10 candy bars, I can plug in for 1 candy bar, and I'll end up with figuring out what the amount of money that I would need to have for that. If you look over here, function means that also that there's only one output value, no matter what. So if I plug in 10 here, I'm always going to end up with 20 over here. I want to end up with 20 over here one time, and then 25 another time. It will always be 20 if I plug in 10 there. So the function rules, when you're writing a function rule, that just means explaining the relationship between those two things. And so we're going to move on quickly here. So if you see up here, use each function rule, find y is equal to x for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all that means is I'm going to plug in the value for x that is listed up there 4 different times, and then write down the values down here. And if you look at this, this will be just a second, and I'll show you how that works. So for y is equal to 2 when x is equal to 1, because 2 times 1 is 2. Y is equal to 4 when x is equal to 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. Y is equal to 6 when x is equal to 3, and y is equal to 8 when x is equal to 4. And that's just how these problems work. Just do another one here. Y is equal to x plus 4. And all this is going to be is just the value plus 4. That is the value of x plus 4. So I'll do that, another quick way of showing that to you. So this first one over here is when x is equal to 1, 1 plus 4 equals 5. When x is equal to 2, 2 plus 4 equals 6. When x is equal to 3, 3 plus 4 equals 7. When x is equal to 4, just plug in 4 plus 4 equals 8. Now these ones are a little bit more complex down here, so sometimes you might want to write them out separately. Like this one here is probably the most complex one, so I'll do that one for you guys. And I'll show you how that works. And I like to write these out using a table. I'll show you the table that I'm going to set up for that. Now if you look at the table that I drew down here, you can see that it's just set up in a way that I can plug in the value for x for each of these and see what the value is, because it's going to be a little bit easier. Negative 5 times 1, I can just write down here negative 5 plus 6. And so on negative 5 times 2 I can do it in my head. But that's just the way I like to write this stuff out, because this is the stuff that I need to be aware of. So now you can see I plugged in all the values. So when x is equal to 1, it's going to be 1 times negative 5, so that's just going to be negative 5. That's why it's there. When x is equal to 2, it's going to be 2 times negative 5, so that's going to be negative 10. That's why that's there. And when x is equal to 3, negative 15. When x is equal to 4, negative 20. And then this plus 6 I have to go ahead and deal with. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to figure out what negative 5 plus 6 is, and in this case here it's going to be 1. In this case here it's going to be negative 4. In this case here it's going to be negative 9. That would be an example of my technical glitch that I'm working through right now. So here, if you look, I just went ahead and finished this off, and I apologize for that. But here, if you notice here, the negative 5 in front, each time x goes up by 1, the value goes down by negative 5. And we have to add 6 to each side. So that's for that one. And you'll want to write these down, because this is going to be part of your work that you need to work on for classwork with the sub tomorrow. So this here is writing a function rule. Now, we did some of these in class, and when we did these in class, they were all based on starting off with x being 0. Now, none of these is x equal to 0, so we have to figure out what the 0 value of x is. So let's do that quickly here. All you need to do is look at the pattern here to figure that out. If we were to go back one more for this one right here, what's it going to be? It's going to be 0. Well, here, let's figure it out. It's going to be 0 for x and 5 for y. So remember what I had said before about how this is the important thing to know is how much they're going up by. They're going up by 1 each time that x goes up by 1. And then seeing where you start off with 0 is equal to 5. So I'll show you how to do this. So that's going to be the equation there. And the reason I know that it's going to be plus 5 is because that's 0 there. When x is equal to 0, y has to be equal to something. And it's going to be 5. So that's the reason why I know that when this value is equal to 0, this term here, then I have to have 5 as the value for y. Now, the reason why I know it has to be 1x in front, and I don't really need the 1, that's just to demonstrate. Each time it goes up by 1 over here, it goes up by 1 over here. Now over here, each time the value goes up by 1, the value over here goes up by 4. So instead, we're going to have 4x over here. Here, each time the value of x goes up by 1, the value of y goes down by 3. So it's going to be negative 3x. And that's kind of the pattern here. It's going to be 3 times x because it goes up by 3 each time. So really, there's two parts of the problem. Figuring out what the value is when x is equal to 0 and figuring out what the value, how much the value of y goes up each time x goes up by 1. And then you've got the equation basically solved. Let me do a couple more here. Now for this one here, when x is 0, y is going to be equal to 0 because each time it's going up by 4. So if I trace that back one more back to 0, I'm going to subtract 4 from there. So I know that I don't have to add anything to it. So that's kind of cool. So now I just have to figure out what to multiply by. And we already said that since it's going up by 4 each time, it's going to be just multiplied by 4. So this should be the equation right here. So that's the equation. And then we need to check and make sure that these values all work. So for this one here, I would plug in the value for 4. So 1 times 4 plus 5 equals 9, so that works. 1 times 3 plus 5 equals 8, so that works. Here, I want to try this again. 1 times, let's see here for a value for 1. 4 times 1 is equal to 4, so that works. 4 times 3 is equal to 12, so that works. So just check through and make sure that you got those answers right for that. Going to do one more of these, and I think it's going to be this one down here. Let's see here. Because this one here, it's a little bit tougher on some level. Well, a little bit tougher. So let's do this one, and we'll go and then be done, and you'll have almost half your classwork done for tomorrow. So if you notice here, when x is 1, y is negative 1, when x is 2, y is equal to negative 3, and so on. So each time it's going down by negative 2 when x is going up by 1. So we already know part of the equation, but now we need to figure out what the value is when x is equal to 0. So let's figure that out. When x is equal to 0, y is just going to be equal to 1, because if you subtract 2 each time you go up by 1, you're going to add 2 when you go up 1 more. So we write that down, and so now we know that it goes down by negative 2 each time. So we've got the value here that's going to be the thing we add on or subtract on, and then we've got the value that's in front of the x, the coefficient in front. So then we're pretty much done. So we just write it out, and here it is. Now we just need to check our answers, plug in a couple of these things. When x is equal to 1, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, plus 1, that's going to be negative 1. When x is equal to 2, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, plus 1 is going to be negative 3. And when we do negative 2 times 3, that's going to be negative 6, plus 1 is going to be negative 5. And negative 2 times 4 is going to be negative 8, plus 1 is negative 7. And that's basically it. You just need to get those two primary things down, and then it should be smooth sailing from there.